Joining me tonight are three men that have been sounding the alarm, and I think paid a pretty big price for it. First guest is a man of honor and integrity and has great pride in our military. He recently withdrew from an invitation to speak at a prayer breakfast at West Point because of a couple of progressive groups and one Islamic group, CARE, said his views are offensive to Muslims. And in the end, he didn't want to shed any negative attention on the military, so he withdrew. We invite him here today with pride, and we are honored to have him here and honored to call you friend, sir. I have not heard anything from you that has ever been dishonorable. We might disagree from time to time, but never dishonorable. And I will tell you this, and I want to start the segment for all three of you guys. Well, let me finish. Let me just finish introducing everybody first. The general is here. Then you know this gentleman who has been with us for several months, and you have been doing all kinds of works for GBTV. You work at CBN, which allows you to say some of the things that nobody else is allowed to say. So we also have Frank Gaffney here, who is the founder of the Center for Security Policy, and he has been with us for I don't know how long, saying the hard things as well. You, Eric, have said the hard things for so long, and General, you have paid a heavy, heavy price. When we were in the break, I brought out this scripture because this is the scripture, and I don't think I've ever shared this before. This is a scripture 5 or 7 years ago I read, and it spoke to me and scared the living daylights out of me because, and I bet you all three have had similar experiences. When I read it, I realized, oh, crap, it's talking to me. And I want to give it. It's Ezekiel 33. The word of the Lord came to me and said, Son of man, speak to your people and say to them, when I bring the sword against a land, and the people of the land choose one of their men and make him their watchman, and he sees the sword coming against the land and blows the trumpet to warn the people. Then if anyone hears the trumpet but does not heed the warning, and the sword comes and takes their life, their blood will be on their own head. Since they heard the sound of the trumpet but did not hear the warning, their blood will be on their own head. If they had heeded the warning, they would have saved themselves. But if the watchman sees the sword coming and does not blow the trumpet to warn the people, and the sword comes and takes someone's life, that person will be taken because of their sin, but I will hold the watchman accountable for their blood. And I did the calculation in my head in about 10 seconds about how many people could have heard the trumpet that I could have blown. And I take that seriously, and I think you guys do as well. In general, I know you do, because of the personal cost that you have recently taken. Before we get into what's coming, and you guys are going to help us kind of go through all of this, do you want to comment at all on what's happened to you at West Point?
Well, Glenn, first of all, let me say that I use that scripture in a lot of my presentations because I do believe that we are called to be watchmen as people of faith. I was asked to speak at West Point at a National Day of Prayer. The Council of American Islamic Relations, combined with a couple of atheist groups, as well as the Military Freedom Foundation, came out in strong opposition against me. It became a very big news story. There was a lot of opposition. There was a lot of media associated with it. And so I spoke to the folks at West Point. And after a discussion with them, I decided that the Army is under enough stress right now. The leadership does not need to be diverted from what it really needs to be doing right now, which is taking care of our troops and their families. So I withdrew from this after a lot of soul searching, to be very honest with you, because I didn't want to give these people a victory. But I think it's indicative of the state of affairs in our nation today. And Frank and I were talking about it before we came on. After Nadal Hassan killed 13 people at Fort Hood and wounded another 27 or 28, the very next week they had Louis Safi, a known associate of the Muslim Brotherhood, who, by the way, Frank tells me is now in Syria leading the opposition, who came and gave cultural classes at Fort Hood. But tolerance does not go both ways. So I'll leave it at that.
Frank, tell me about that. I mean, I tell you something. I've never been so offended in my life when they called that a workplace shooting. I mean, what is wrong with us? What is wrong with us? And it's not just the administration. It's all of us. We're all in this. We all saw it. We're not going to be excused for that. We saw it. We tolerated it. We didn't speak up. And I mean, did the press really make a big deal out of that at all, Frank? I mean, give some of the details of what happened there and who's involved here.
Let me back the lens up for just a second, if I can, to go back to Ezekiel. Because I don't know that it was the inspiration for this, but there's actually, in the U.S. Code, a felony offense that tracks with what the Lord said he would hold the watchman accountable for. If you know treasonous activity is going on, seditious activity aimed at destroying the government and Constitution of the United States, and you do nothing about it, that is a felony offense on your head, not just a crime perpetrated by the seditious sect.
So you would be all of us. All of us. They're saying that we're seditious. They're saying that we're evil people, et cetera, et cetera. But we know of acts that are they're trying to bring down the United States of America, and they are inside.
They're inside the wire. And just to tie this all together, what has happened to Jerry Boykin and to a former member of Congress by the name of Fred Grandy, now associated with our organization, a radio talk show host, who lost his show, to Stephen Coughlin, one of the co-authors of our book with Jerry Boykin on Shariah, the Threat to America, one of the country's eminent non-Muslim experts on Shariah, who was prevented from performing a training session at the CIA because, again, of people like CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations, objecting. Ray Kelly, the Commissioner of Police in New York City, is right now having a crusade mounted for his job because he dared to show a film that portrays the truth about this enemy within, this seditious, what the Muslim Brotherhood calls civilization jihad, that they are absolutely, explicitly pursuing for the purpose, yes, of destroying our country and replacing our Constitution with this doctrine they call Shariah. And for the crime, if you will, of warning against it. For trying to say that this is going on and prevent it from running its course, people like Jerry Boykin are being slimed and, I think, slandered and silenced. And that mustn't be allowed to happen.
I want to point out something, Glenn. And then we had Franklin Graham as well as Tony Perkins that were both disinvited. Now, I was not disinvited. I stepped down. But what I want to say this early in this program today. Frank and I have both said this. There are many Muslims in America that do not support Sharia. That do not want Sharia. And what we have said consistently is they are our natural allies. They are the people we need to engage and give them a voice. They have no voice today. And even people like a very courageous man named Zuhdi Jasser in Phoenix has tried to be a voice for these that reject Sharia. But Frank and I have said consistently we need to reach out to them, not to the front groups for the Muslim Brotherhood like the Council of American Islamic Relations and all of the other unindicted co-conspirators from the Holy Land Foundation.
They're in bed. I mean, they're so deeply in the Pentagon. They're in the administration.
Absolutely.
They're at all levels. They're in our media. They're in our media. I'm really close to telling a story that I haven't told before. I better check with some people before I tell that story. I'm telling you, they're deeply in our media.
Absolutely, and not only the media, Glenn, but the government. The Obama administration knows This administration has made a conscious decision, as Frank has said, as Jerry has said so eloquently. They've made a conscious decision to embrace the Muslim Brotherhood. They know what the Brotherhood is all about. They know about the Brotherhood's goals for America. Our own government, Glenn, in 2004, uncovered Muslim Brotherhood documents in a home just 10 minutes from Washington, D.C., of a leading Muslim Brotherhood operative. They have the Brotherhood's blueprint for America. That blueprint says, destroy America from within. The FBI, our government, has this in their possession, so they know. It's not naive. They're making a conscious decision to empower the Muslim Brotherhood.
You said to me, I think a week ago, I said, I'm very concerned about the military. And I'm concerned that things are happening, that there are people inside. And you said, have faith in our military. And I know you pulled out yourself, but I have to tell you something. If I'm on the other side of that table, if I still have control of the military, if I still have that shield of the military, I stand and I say, excuse me, but we will have people here who are good, decent Muslims, and they can pray, and we can have people who disagree and point out that our enemy is trying to destroy us, and it is radical Islam, period. Where are those people?
Remember this, one of the fundamental tenets of our form of government is civilian control of the military. The military reflects the policies of the administration. So what you're seeing now, I think, is the...
Well, let me go here then. I have to take a break. They're yelling at me, so I took my earpiece out. Let me go here. Back to what you said and answer. At what point are we in so much trouble that you can't let people dismantle it anymore because we're in trouble? They are dismantling us from the inside. We know it. We have their documents. We have their names. We have everything. We have their evidence all over the world and their own words. At what point does somebody say, this is treason and there's no more blood to let here, or this patient's not going to get up off the table? We'll start there next.
في تعليم الناس حقيقة الإسلام، وإنما الناس يعني لا تفهم الشريعة كما ينبغي. إحنا في حاجة إننا نعرف الناس أحكام الشريعة ونبينها للناس قبل كل شيء، ونقعد مدة نعرف الناس. أنا أعتقد إن ال5 سنين الأولى دي ليس فيها قطع يعني أيدي ولا أي، لابد فيها من التعليم والبيان وهذه الأشياء، فترة
مرحلة انتقالية.
All right, let's spend a few minutes on what's coming. What's coming?
Well, we were talking during the break that Al-Qaeda has issued statements already, Glenn, saying that this 2011 was the year of the despots, the secular fascist dictators in the Middle East. This year is the year of the kings. And I believe Saudi Arabia will be in the crosshairs, and I believe Jordan, especially King Abdullah, will be in the crosshairs. If you look at what Abdullah is doing right now, he feels it. He's reaching out to the Muslim Brotherhood, talking about sharing power with them. He's reaching out to Hamas, welcoming them back into Jordan. Keep an eye on Jordan, right on Israel's borders, and Saudi Arabia. It seems like if
Saudi Arabia falls, correct me if I'm wrong, Saudi Arabia falls, especially, Jordan falls, Israel is done, and so is the United States, and in Western Europe is now beholden to Russia. The rise of Russia becomes huge because they have exploited their resources. They are ready to pump oil all over the world. They ain't going to pump it to us. They'll pump it to China. They'll pump it to Europe if they're beholden to Europe. And we are where? I mean, if Saudi Arabia falls, as a strategic thinker, General, Saudi Arabia falls, they cut off the oil supply. How long does America have to fight? How does she fight?
Well, John Woolward wrote a book in 1974 that talked about this called Armageddon, Oil, and Terror, where he says we will reach the point that we will not have the energy to go to war. And that's exactly what will happen. If we lose Persian Gulf oil, and then if Chavez was to cut off our oil coming out of Venezuela, we could not fight. We couldn't reopen the Persian Gulf.
Could we protect the homeland? Do we have enough resources here to be able to protect the homeland enough? I mean, we don't even have a president that would even understand it. Could we?
We have enough resources here to be energy independent for centuries, probably. But we don't.
No, I mean access. I know we do it under the ground.
Right.
We have access to be able to. No.
No.
So I mean, Russia and all of our enemies who have all of that.
It's our Achilles heel, Glenn, is our dependence on foreign oil.
Okay, so let's just say in a year from now, do you think the world will be at war?
I believe the Middle East will be at war with, I would say as a betting man, by the end of 2012, we're going to see something in the Middle East. I believe this is the year of reckoning for Iran's nuclear weapons program. And the interesting thing here, guys, is everyone says Israel is going to strike Iran's nuclear facilities. I believe Israel will. I believe they're going to do it. I believe they have no choice. Yeah. But I also believe that Iran might get this started off by instigating a proxy war on Israel's borders and strike first.
They're full of bluster right now. They see the weakness around the world and the anti-Semitism.
It's not bluster, and you know, even Jim Clapper, a man who I've been very critical of in the past, among other things, for saying last year in testimony to Congress, it's just a secular group that has eschewed violence. But he said yesterday, before Congress, that Iran is now preparing for attacks against the United States. May think it can do them. One of the things you've talked about on the show, I know, in the past, and that I think we better be thinking about in this context as well. You asked about, you know, the security of our homeland. One of the things that the Iranians have repeatedly said in the person of the president is that not only they want to wipe Israel off the map, that's all it is, but that a world without America is not only desirable, it's achievable. And I've thought a lot about this, as I'm sure my colleagues have. There's only really one way I could see them doing that. And unfortunately, it's a way we've watched them preparing for. If you take a missile...
Don't say EMP.
...and you launch it over the United States, and you detonate it with a nuclear warhead outside the atmosphere, you can crater this country, as you know, and as you've talked about.
I know.
But here's the thing.
100 million dead in the first 6 months.
What you've heard from your guests, from the Director of National Intelligence, what your own common sense is telling you, what the Iranians are telling you. Not only that they think taking us out is achievable, but also that 2012 is the year the Mahdi will return. This messianic figure. So you put all this together. If you want to ask where we'll be a year from now, I'm with these guys that there's a war on.
Okay.
I don't know where, and I don't know whether we're in it.
Have you heard the reports?
But it's not going to be good for freedom.
Have you heard the reports that, you know, the Iranians, when they were launching the missiles, they were blowing up in the skies? Remember, they were launching the missiles just recently. And they were blowing up before they
seem to be failing.
They seem to be failing. Right. So you saw this? Did you see this?
Yeah.
Where they said it depends on what the failure is. It depends on what you're trying to do. Right. When I saw that, I thought, that's EMP.
That could well be.
You don't want, you don't have it coming back. You blow it up here, not here.
Here's another thing to keep people up at night, Glenn. Our own Pentagon, we haven't given them enough yet. Our own Pentagon issued a report in 2010 saying that by the year 2015, Iran may have intercontinental ballistic missiles that can reach the east coast of the United States. Within 3 years, those missiles will be nuclear tipped. We are the ultimate prize. Israel is a bump in the road. We are the ultimate prize in the great Satan. We need to wrap our heads around that real quick.
But they don't have to wait to get a missile that can range us from their soil. They can put missiles, and they've tested the capability of doing this, on ships.
I know.
And firing them from there. And
that's the real, to me, that's the real threat, because they have said they were going to do that. Remember, what was it? Yeah. Within the last 6 months, they said, we're sending into the Strait of Hormuz, and we're also sending to the coast of America. That should have been a wake-up call to everybody.
Lots of wake-up calls here. We're not awake because we're determined to see no evil, to speak no evil, to hear no evil, especially from our leaders.
I want to show you guys something. I'm collecting the, David Barton is collecting all of the great things about America. I think it is important to collect some other sides, because I feel like I've watched enough old Perry Masons where he comes in and he says, "Are you telling me absolutely everything?" And the guy's not. And you're like, don't, because it's gonna really go badly for you. You know what I mean? That's what we have to arm our children with. Are you telling me everything about my country? Are you telling me everything? Because otherwise they're going to get blindsided, and you will not be able to restart it. It will discredit everything, and they will go, wait, well, I didn't know that. No. When somebody says, "Do you know that about your country?" Then you say, "Oh, yeah. Oh, no. Oh, no. Let me tell you what it really was." And have the evidence of what it really was. I brought two things in. General, you might actually appreciate this. This is the first and only edition from 1945. You recognize, not the Zimbabwe dollar, you recognize this? Made by us. This actually has pictures of Elie Wiesel. The day I purchased this, I didn't realize that Elie Wiesel was in it, and I had lunch with Elie Wiesel. This is what our allies came in and said, "Look at what you have done. Look what you have done." And it's, I won't open it, but it is pictures of the concentration camps. But this is us. This is a book called Without Sanctuary. This, there were only a couple of copies made of this. Nobody ever wanted to buy or own this book. And it has sat unwanted for a very long time. It is unwanted in my library, but it is something that we have to remember. And it is called On Lynching. And it is, I won't open it because it is horrific. But they are pictures that were made into postcards of, for instance, there's one picture of a man on fire hanging from a tree with American family standing right in front of it, smiling with their children. The man's on fire hanging from a tree, and they're smiling with their children. And it says, "We had a great barbecue today. Wish you were here." The things that Americans have done in the past are horrific. And unless we recognize the things that men, including Americans, are capable of, we will never be able to fix ourselves. We'll never see it coming. If you say, "Oh, well, that's crazy, those people over there won't do it," well, they're doing it now. And don't tell me that this kind of stuff couldn't happen in America, where we target and isolate a certain group, because we've done it before. And so have the Germans. It doesn't matter. You're just switching. The infidel is somebody, always somebody.
Man's capacity for inhumanity to man is not to be underestimated.
It is.
And when you add on top of it what we've been talking about throughout the program, that people can rationalize being inhumane to others because it's God's will, according to their construct. Whether it's in Iran that is bringing back the Mahdi by triggering the apocalypse, or whether it's the Muslim Brotherhood that is driving the Jews into the sea, or imposing Shariah on all of us, or whether it is somebody else who's taking advantage of these circumstances. You mentioned Russia, you could throw China in the mix, the Venezuelans. You've got a world that is full of hurt and could get a lot worse. And if I may just put in a plug, we did just today up in Washington, Glenn, an analysis of what it's going to entail for our economy at the state, county, city, and business level when these defense budget cuts come through. And it's horrific. It's a study you can find at forthecommondefense.org. But quite apart from the economic impact, what the national security implications are of what the Obama administration is doing in the face of this real and present and growing danger it's beyond simply
obscene.
Reckless.
Oh, yeah.
It's horrifically irresponsible.
Some might take it farther than that.
Well, the other thing, though, is, Glenn, that what this Arab Spring, I think, is also resulting in is a huge power struggle that ultimately is going to bring about change in Turkey. Because Turkey wants very much to be the center of the caliphate as it is being established, and as does Iran. And we are going to see a substantially different Turkey, I think, a year from now than we see today.
Can I make a quick point about Turkey? Recep Erdogan, the Turkish prime minister, viciously anti-Israel, but a NATO ally, as we speak, viciously anti-Israel guy. Other than David Cameron, the British prime minister, President Obama talks to Erdogan more than any other world leader.
Good God.
That is his guy, and Erdogan is basically advising our president on the Arab Spring and telling him what a good thing it is and that Islamist movements are innocuous and harmless. He's our go-to guy on Middle East policy, a raving Islamist who hates Israel. That's the president's phone pal.
He is the guy who said that that Turkey will be head of a caliphate, isn't he? Hasn't he in the past, not recently, but I think in the past
the Muslim Brotherhood, when Erdogan went into Egypt about 3 months ago, he was welcomed by the Muslim Brotherhood there as the new leader of the Islamic world and therefore the head of the caliphate. The Muslim Brotherhood recognized him as such.
In 1998, Glenn, he was actually locked up in Turkey, locked up because he made a speech saying, mosques are our barracks, minarets are our bayonets. And now he's the president's phone pal.
Can I just add, that's frightening. And you're absolutely right.
You're going to make it worse.
The strategic implications of having a NATO ally that is actually a leader of this Islamist enterprise is really troubling. I'm at least as worried that the president's regular consultant on matters involving Islam in the United States, as well as foreign policy towards Israel, for example, is Mohammed Majid, a man who is the imam of another of these Wahhabist Virginia Islamist radical Muslim Brotherhood mosques in Northern Virginia, the All Dulles Area Muslim Society, Adams Center. He also is the president of the largest Muslim Brotherhood front in the United States, the Islamic Society of North America. And again, don't take my word for it. In this Muslim Brotherhood strategic plan, the Islamic Society of North America is listed at the top of a list of what is called organizations, our organizations and organizations of our friends. It was also found to be properly listed as an unindicted co-conspirator in this Holy Land Foundation trial by not one, but 4 federal judges.
Same with CARE.
Same with CARE.
Okay. You guys depressed the crap out of me. I mean, geez, I mean, I can be pretty.
To know.
I know, but I could be.
You wanted to raise
not
the
this
alarm.
much.
You wanted to be the watchman on the wall.
I know. The blood's on your heads now. Give me a way out. Give me a way out.
The first is
Okay,
to
don't
know
all
what you're
jump
up
in at
against.
once. What?
The first is to know what you're up against.
Right.
To recognize Sharia as a threat, as about power that we
But you
can,
don't have
that we
anybody
can counter,
in the
that we can counter.
you don't have anybody in the administration. You don't have anybody in the media. You don't have you don't have the military willing to say anything. You got nobody.
You've got a couple of presidential candidates
Yes,
who
you
have
do.
held themselves out as alternatives to the present president. Not that they're necessarily going to be the nominee for the Republican Party, but they have been, Newt Gingrich, Rick Santorum, have been very explicitly warning Sharia as a threat.
I will tell you that
must be countered.
I spoke to, because I agree with you, Newt Gingrich is strong on this, and so is Rick Santorum. But I will tell you that 7 years ago, I talked to Mitt Romney, and I asked him, and I thought, this was my gotcha question for me. This was not, nobody should have known this, 7, 8 years ago. And I said to him, hey, do you know who the 12th Imam is? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, he, chapter and verse, he knows who the 12th Imam is. I think we have, except for Ron Paul, all of them understand what's going on here. All of them.
I conversed with him about that time, not quite that long, and I got him to the point where he was very clear about jihadism and the threat that it represents. And that's important. But if you don't get what is impelling jihadism, which is Sharia, you get to the situation that you were just asking Jerry Boykin about, which is, our military is finding it hard to think about who is the enemy,
So you
let
don't
alone
think that he
counter it.
gets that?
I worry that he hasn't made that next leap.
Have you talked to him recently?
No. No, I talked to him in the last.
I haven't talked to him recently either.
Someone I trust.
If you do, you call me, and if I do, I'll call you.
Waleed Ferris, who's a friend of ours, who's great, is advising Romney on foreign policy, which is encouraging. Real quick, guys, we're looking for signs of encouragement. Look, let's be honest. It's going to get a lot worse before it gets better, and things are about to happen in the Middle East. Mitt Romney's going to have to be well-versed because things are about to unfold in the Middle East. They're going to make people forget all about the economy and the debt.
Whole world can change by this time next year. We could not, there's a possibility that you wouldn't even have the ability to see us a year from now. So the whole world could change in a year or even sooner. It could change tonight. General, a word of optimism?
Well, I think that the 2012 election is an opportunity for us to change the direction of the country. I wouldn't say who I'm voting for, but I have certainly supported and endorsed a candidate. But I will say what I said on your program last time. If my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven. And I think it's incumbent upon us as a nation to turn back to the one who created this country.
I will tell you that I have, just like these gentlemen, and I've done less work than you guys have on this, I have racked my brain to first understand it, sleepless nights trying to figure it all out, and when I did, try to beg for an answer. I will tell you the only answer, and this is one of the reasons why I'm here, because they don't like this on mainstream television, is God. That's it. Only turning back to Him and doing the right things according to Him. He is begging us, get behind me, come on, just get behind me. I'll take care of it, just get behind me. A lot of pain coming, but miracles are coming as well. Please, we have 178 days, our countdown to restoring love. And this is a gathering of people of all faiths who don't mind speaking the truth and actually not talking about it, but doing it. Actually, love is a verb, using love as a verb and getting involved. Make sure you join us. Check it out at mercury1.org. Tonight from the news, the real news from the Blaze, we'll keep the conversation going on Iran. A panel of experts look at the important things like the strategy of Iran, how it's plotting against us, and how big the threat is to the U.S. That starts at 7 p.m. Eastern, right after this program. Then see how Frank and his family are making out as they live life off the grid. Don't miss an all-new episode of Independence USA, 8 p.m. Eastern, only here on GBTV. Thank you so much for watching from Dallas and New York. Good night, America.